Today, beer is everywhere. It's at backyard barbecues, at football games, at weddings, at concerts. For many people, it's just another drink sitting in a refrigerator. But thousands of years ago, beer shouldn't have existed at all. No one set out to invent it. No ancient genius woke up one morning and announced that humanity needed alcohol. In fact, the first beer was probably a mistake, a strange accident. The kind of accident that changed human history forever. And here's the surprising part. That accidental drink may have helped create civilization itself. Think about that for a second. A beverage that millions enjoy today might have played a role in transforming scattered bands of hunter-gatherers into the first organized societies. So how did that happen? How did a simple mistake become one of the most influential discoveries in human history? To understand the answer, we need to travel back to a world before cities, before kingdoms, before roads, before writing. A world where survival was never guaranteed. For most of human history, finding enough food was a daily challenge. Ancient humans couldn't visit a store when supplies ran low. They couldn't preserve food with refrigerators. They couldn't predict whether tomorrow would bring abundance or starvation. Every meal mattered, every calorie mattered, and every season brought new dangers. One of the biggest problems was storage. Food spoiled quickly. Grains attracted insects. Fresh plants rotted. Meat went bad. A successful hunt could feed a family for days, but only if the food lasted long enough to eat. Survival often depended on finding ways to make food last. Over time, humans became surprisingly creative. They dried meat, smoked fish, stored grains, buried food underground. Anything that helped extend survival became valuable. Now remember this. Long before beer existed, another revolution was already beginning. Humans were slowly shifting from hunting animals to growing crops. Wild grasses became early forms of wheat and barley. People started gathering seeds intentionally, then planting them, then protecting them, then depending on them. At first, these grains were simply food, nothing more. But then something unexpected happened. Imagine standing beside a small settlement nearly 10,000 years ago. The air is warm. The ground is dusty. Nearby, baskets filled with harvested grain sit waiting to be stored. The harvest represents security. Without it, winter could become deadly. Without it, families could starve. Now imagine that some of those grains become wet. Maybe rain leaks into storage containers. Maybe a basket falls into a puddle. Maybe someone leaves soaked grain sitting longer than intended. At first, it seems like a disaster. Food is being ruined. The grain begins to change. The smell becomes strange. Bubbles appear. The liquid starts behaving differently. Most people would probably throw it away. But curiosity is a powerful force. Someone eventually tasted it, and the world changed. This sounds impossible, but the first beer may have emerged from naturally fermented grain left sitting in water. No laboratory, no recipe, no instructions, just nature doing what nature does. Tiny organisms called yeast exist almost everywhere. They're floating through the air around us right now. They're on plants, on fruit, on grains. Invisible. Ancient people had no idea yeast existed. They couldn't see it, but yeast was already changing the world behind the scenes. When yeast encounters sugars, something remarkable happens. It begins feeding. As it feeds, it creates alcohol and carbon dioxide. That's fermentation. Simple, natural, and incredibly powerful. Scientists believe this process likely happened many times throughout history without anyone understanding why. Grain became wet. Yeast found it. Fermentation began. Alcohol appeared. Now here's the strange part. The first people who drank fermented grain may not have viewed it as alcohol at all. They simply experienced something unusual, a new flavor, a different sensation, a feeling unlike anything they had known before. Imagine discovering that entirely by accident. One day you're drinking ordinary water. The next day you're drinking something that changes how you feel, something mysterious, something memorable, something worth repeating. And once people realized the process could happen again, everything changed. What began as an accident slowly became intentional. Communities started experimenting. They learned which grains worked best. They learned how long fermentation took. They learned how different conditions changed the result. Without understanding the science, they were mastering the process. Generation after generation, observation after observation, trial after trial. Over time, beer became more than a curiosity. It became useful. In some places, water wasn't always safe. Contaminated water could spread disease. Fermented drinks sometimes provided a safer alternative. Researchers believe that in certain ancient communities, weak forms of beer may have become a regular part of daily life, not because people wanted to get drunk, because it was practical, because it lasted, because it could be shared, because it had value. But beer's influence didn't stop there. Its story became much bigger because beer needed grain, and grain needed farming. Think about the chain reaction. The more people wanted grain-based drinks, the more important agriculture became. The more agriculture expanded, the more people stayed in one place. The more people stayed in one place, the larger settlements grew. The larger settlements grew, the closer civilization came. This is where the story becomes fascinating. Some researchers have even proposed a controversial idea. What if humans didn't just farm for food? What if the desire for fermented grain helped encourage farming itself? The debate continues today. No one knows exactly how much influence beer had, but the possibility is incredible. Imagine that one accidental drink helped motivate one of humanity's greatest transformations. Hunter-gatherers becoming farmers, farmers becoming villagers, villagers becoming citizens, and eventually, civilizations emerging from the process. Now let's make this personal. Imagine a father living in one of those early farming communities. His harvest determines whether his children survive winter. Every basket of grain matters. Every seed matters. Life is uncertain. Danger is everywhere. Yet after months of work, the harvest arrives. The community gathers. Food fills storage rooms. For a brief moment, survival feels possible. And alongside the grain comes something else. A fermented drink, shared among neighbors, passed between families. A symbol that the hard season has ended. For the first time in months, people relax. They laugh. They celebrate. They feel connected. Beer wasn't just a beverage. It became part of human relationships, part of gatherings, part of rituals, part of community. And that may be one reason it survived for thousands of years. Humans have always needed more than calories. We've needed connection. We've needed stories. We've needed moments that bring people together. Over time, beer became woven into those moments. Across continents, across cultures, across generations, different societies created different versions, different ingredients, different techniques, different traditions. Yet the underlying story remained remarkably similar. A simple accident had become a permanent part of human life. The emotional side of this story is easy to overlook. When we think about ancient people, we often imagine survival alone, hunting, gathering, working, struggling. But they were human. Just like us, they celebrated victories. They mourned losses. They gathered around fires. They shared meals. They looked for comfort during uncertain times. And sometimes that comfort came from a fermented drink born from pure chance. A mistake became a tradition. A tradition became culture. A culture became history. That's what makes the story so remarkable. Because beer isn't really a story about alcohol. It's a story about curiosity, about experimentation, about humans noticing something unexpected and deciding to explore it again and again until it changed the world. And today, that ancient accident is still with us. Tonight, somewhere on Earth, someone will open a bottle of beer. They'll barely think about it. It will seem ordinary, familiar, completely normal. Yet hidden inside that simple drink is a story stretching back thousands of years. A story of wet grain, invisible yeast, ancient farmers, shared celebrations, and one accidental discovery that may have helped shape civilization itself. Think about that the next time you see a glass of beer. Because what looks like an ordinary drink may actually be one of humanity's greatest accidents, and perhaps one of its most important.